colors, Jazzy Jill here, and I wanted to give you a quick tutorial on how to color this Snow One Like You image with Copics for the, the October Technique Club. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I colored it. I am going to start with the red, and I chose R14, R17, and R29 for that. So I'm going to start with my R14, and I'm just going to go ahead and color in my red images. I'm using circular motions just to lay down my base color. You always want to start with your lightest color. Okay. And the hat. And his pocket. Okay, now I'm going to take my second color, which is R17, and I'm going to start at the darkest part and give it a flicking motion out about 2/3 of the way of the image. And here there's a little crease in the bow. I'm going to get down in that crease. And same thing with the middle of the bow. I'm using 3 colors, so I kind of like divide my image up into 3 sections. And my lightest goes over all of it, my middle color goes over 2/3 of my image, and then the darkest goes over like 1/3 of it. And then on the pocket, I'm going to just go in from each side. Okay, now I'm going to take my darkest color, and I chose R29 because it's quite a bit darker, and I wanted to really make these creases more defined than just going up 2 numbers. So I ended up going up 10 and then 2, from 17 to 29. It just gives me a little bit more intense color. And again, on this one, I'm going in about 1/3 of the way. Okay, now I'm going to go back with my lightest color, my R14, and just kind of go from the lightest section back and blend those colors where they need to be blended. And it kind of smooths out any lines that might be there. I think I added the 29 there. And the pocket, I'm just going to kind of go in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to do his nose. That's going to be YR16. And I'm having the light come from this side, so I am going to darken the other side of the nose with YR18. And I'm going to go about half of the way, half of the distance of the carrot. And then you can just go back and just kind of go over that line real quick and blend it. I'm going to go back and color my bird red as well. This is the R14. And then I'm just going to hit the head with the R29 and the base of the tail. And I forgot his little beak. Just a touch. Okay, now for his arms, I'm using E33. And then I'm going to go in with E35 and just do a little bit of shading with it, not a whole lot. Kind of following the lines of the shading that's already on the branches. Okay, now for my candy cane, I'm going to do G03. Didn't do the greatest job on my pocket here, but Copics are really so forgiving. I'm not really worried about it because I can fix that as we go along. And then I'm going to go with G05, and I'm going to add a little bit more shading. Some people think these are such small areas they don't need to be shaded, but those small areas is what really gives your stamped image the dimension when you color it. So just because it's small, don't think you don't have to shade it. Now I'm going to go back with the G03 and just kind of go in from the light edge and blend it. Okay. Now I'm going to color my snowman. The image is colored, but it still looks rather flat. He doesn't have any life to him because he's not round. So the snowman is white. I don't want to leave him white because white actually does have color. So I am going to go in with C1, and I am going to start at the edge and just brush in just a little bit, not a whole lot, little bit down at the bottom, and then around over on the side, around the underneath of the cupcake, or candy cane, excuse me, and then a little bit underneath the bow. And then I'm going to do the same thing with his face. Just around to the top. Okay. Now since he's a snowman and he's cold, blue is a cool color. So I'm actually going to, instead of lightening this with colorless blender like I could, I'm going to go in with the B40s. And I am going to start at the edge again and brush it out past where I did the gray. And just and this is going to soften the gray, and it's going to add a little bit of blue tinge to him. And I can also, around the pocket, kind of push in some of that color with the blue, and it's going to make that fade away. I'm just going to add that blue in there. And then the middle part is still white. That's going to be the highlight where the sun is hitting him. And the same thing with his face. Okay, so now he has a little bit more shape and more color and dimension. But he's still kind of flat. I need to give him some shading. So I am going to go in now with my C3 and add my shading. Since my light is coming from this way, his underside and this side is going to be darker. So I'm going to take my gray, my C3 this time, and I'm going to, I need to turn this around this way. I'm going to go around the edge of my image with the C3 and put just a little bit of shading around it. Now move the image so that it's convenient for you to color so you can get good even lines. And I'm not going around the whole image. I'm just going on the extreme sides and on the other underside. His nose is going to have some shading, and then the bird will have shading. And then underneath his hat is going to have shading. And under this arm, and then to give these hills some shading and some life, I'm going to go ahead and just follow the lines that I drew on there with the C3. Okay. Now what I normally would do is pick CO or C1 and go back and soften these shading lines. But since I used the blue, the B0000 on the snowman, I'm going to do that with the shading as well. So I'm just going to go back over and I'm going to go a little bit thicker with the B00, and this is just going to soften those lines and make them fade a little bit so they're not quite so stark. And just go ahead and follow all of those lines. Okay. And then you can see if you want it a little bit softer, go ahead and keep going back over the lines. Your lighter color is actually going to lighten the gray because it's a smaller number and it's a lighter color. Okay, and I still have some boo-boos around the pocket, so I'm actually going to take my C3 and I'm just going to very lightly go around that edge and around the candy cane there, and that just made that red disappear. Now go back over it with my B0000 and soften it. See, it kind of just made that disappear. Okay, so I want to do some background too. I don't want to leave the sky all white. I want to add some blue to it. You can do this several ways. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same blue and I'm just going to add the dots. I like the pixeling or the speckling the background. So I am just using the very tip of this marker and just very, very lightly making dots. And when I'm doing random dots like this, I usually do in a circle pattern and just keep going and kind of walk it around the image. And I'm not going to go all the way to the edge of my cardstock. I'm just going to do immediately around the snowman, just to add a little bit of dimension to the background. That's going to make him pop out more too when you're doing the background. ahead and dot all the way around it. Okay, now I'm going to go back with BOO now and do the same thing, but I'm going to do a few less dots, and I'm going to keep it in a little bit closer than my B and 4 O's. And I'm going right up to my image. That's what's going to give it the dimension. I'm not doing as many dots, but I'm just going right over the other dots. I'm not worried about spacing them out perfectly. Okay, so now you can see that he has a little bit more dimension behind him, and that makes him stand out. And now, just to finish off the snow in that, add some flocking with the quickie glue pen, and you're all set. Hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on how to color the snow one like you. Happy stamping!